Welcome back to True Crime Documentary YouTube channel. Have you ever wondered how a seemingly perfect life can hide the darkest of secrets? What happens when love, trust, and betrayal collide in ways that push ordinary people to do unthinkable things? In small towns, where everyone knows everyone, it's hard to imagine a tragedy hiding just beneath the surface. Today, we're diving into one such tragic tale from Tifton, Georgia, where a love affair driven by obsession and deceit spiraled into murder. This is the story of Willie Tanner, a respected local businessman whose life ended in a brutal, shocking way, leaving behind unanswered questions that haunted the town forever. The perfect life on the outside. Willie Tanner, a 49-year-old hardware store owner, had lived in Tifton for most of his life. He was known to everyone in the community. His store, Tanner's Hardware, was a cornerstone of the town. Whether you needed advice on fixing a leaky faucet or just a simple chat about the weather, Willie was always behind the counter with a warm smile and friendly conversation. He had built up 20 years of trust and admiration, and he had everything. At least that's what people believed. Willie had been married to Lynn, his high school sweetheart, for 25 years. They were active in their church, organized charity events, and appeared to have the kind of stable, picture-perfect marriage that people admired. The couple was even involved in local school activities, often helping out at fundraisers or school sports events. On the surface, it seemed like the Tanners were the model couple, living the kind of small-town dream most people wanted for themselves. But as we all know, appearances can be deceiving. A hidden affair. A dangerous obsession unfolds. Enter Madison Kelly. Madison, just 18 years old, was in her senior year of high school. She was known for her intelligence and striking looks. She was also a frequent visitor to Tanner's Hardware, and over time, an unexpected bond formed between her and Willie. What began as simple conversations about tools and supplies quickly developed into something more, a secret, forbidden affair. For Willie, this affair was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it provided an escape from the growing distance he felt in his marriage with Lynn. On the other hand, it filled him with guilt. Madison was nearly 30 years younger than him, practically a child compared to him. Yet despite knowing it was wrong, he couldn't pull himself away from the fire. The thrill of the affair and the intensity of Madison's attraction to him kept drawing him back in. Madison, young and impressionable, quickly became obsessed with Willie. What started as admiration soon turned into a dangerous infatuation. She would often fantasize about being with him permanently, picturing a future where they could be together without secrecy. Her emotions became deeply entwined with Willie's, and before long, her attachment began to spiral out of control. The cracks begin to show. Tifton's calm on the edge of chaos. As Christmas approached in 2019, Willie's behavior began to change noticeably. The jovial man, who had always been a staple at community events, became increasingly distant. He spent less time at home and more time working late at the store. Lynn, trying to be an understanding wife, thought Willie was just stressed with the holiday rush. However, her intuition told her something wasn't right. She felt Willie slipping away, both emotionally and physically. Still, she had no concrete proof of his infidelity, so she carried on, hoping the holidays would bring them closer. Friends and neighbors also noticed a change in Willie. His usually upbeat demeanor had been replaced with worry. He wasn't cracking jokes as much, and there were days when he seemed completely distracted. People in town chalked it up to the usual stress of running a business during the holidays, but they had no idea what was really going on in Willie's life. While Lynn kept herself busy with church activities and Christmas preparations, Willie was grappling with intense emotional turmoil. He was torn between the life he had built with Lynn, the respect he had in the community, and the intense, fiery relationship he shared with Madison. It wasn't just physical. Madison made him feel young and alive again in ways he hadn't felt in years, but with that passion came guilt. Deep down, Willie knew the affair couldn't last forever, something had to give, but he wasn't sure what. December 22nd, 2019, the day everything changed. The day of December 22nd, 2019, started off like any other quiet Sunday in Tifton. Lynn had spent her morning at First Baptist Church, helping to prepare for the Christmas Eve service. She returned home around 9 a.m., expecting Willie to be out running errands for the store, but as she pulled into the driveway, she noticed his truck parked outside, which seemed unusual. When she entered their home, she was greeted by the familiar, comforting scent of the pine Christmas tree they had decorated together just days before. The lights twinkled, casting a warm glow across the room. The presents under the tree were neatly wrapped, with some marked "To Lynn" from Willie. But something felt off. The house was eerily silent. Lynn called out for Willie, but there was no answer. She moved through the house, her footsteps growing more hesitant as a sense of dread crept over her. When she entered the living room, what she saw would haunt her forever. Willie lay motionless on the floor, his head soaked in blood. The tree, once a symbol of holiday joy, had shattered ornaments scattered around him, with tinsel tangled in his clothes. A hammer lay on the floor nearby, drenched in blood. The horrifying scene was in stark contrast to the cozy holiday decorations, making the sight even more surreal. Lynn screamed, her body trembling as she dropped to her knees next to Willie. She reached for her phone, her hands shaking uncontrollably as she dialed 911. Through sobs, she told the operator, "My husband, he's not breathing. There's blood everywhere." The investigation. Detective Nora Collins takes charge. Within minutes, the peaceful street was filled with flashing lights and the sound of sirens. Neighbors, many of whom had known the Tanners for years, peeked through their windows, their minds racing with questions and speculation. What had happened to Willie? How could something so tragic happen to such a respected man in their small town? Leading the investigation was Detective Nora Collins, a seasoned investigator known for her sharp instincts and no-nonsense approach. As she arrived at the scene, Collins was immediately struck by the contrast between the festive decorations and the brutal violence that had unfolded inside the Tanner home. The crime scene told a story of its own. The hammer, still lying next to Willie's body, indicated that the murder was personal. The blood-splattered ornaments and the smashed Christmas presents suggested a crime fueled by intense emotion, perhaps jealousy or rage. Detective Collins knew that solving this case would require digging deep into Willie's life, especially the relationships that might have led to this horrific event. She quickly honed in on two individuals who seemed to have the strongest motives: Madison Kelly, Willie's young lover, and Lynn Tanner, his wife of 25 years. Madison Kelly, the teenage lover turned suspect. Madison Kelly was the first person Detective Collins decided to interview. The 18-year-old high school senior was devastated by the news of Willie's death, but her emotional state raised suspicions. Madison initially cooperated with the police, admitting to her affair with Willie, but as the questions became more pointed, she grew increasingly defensive. Madison spoke about her deep feelings for Willie, describing how she had fallen in love with him over the course of the past year. She painted a picture of a relationship that was both passionate and complicated. According to her, Willie had promised to leave Lynn for her, but recently he had become distant. Madison feared he was pulling away, and she was desperate to hold on to him. When Detective Collins asked Madison where she had been on the night of Willie's murder, her answers became less certain. Madison claimed she had been home studying for her final exams, but her alibi was weak at best. Her emotional instability, coupled with her obsession with Willie, made her a prime suspect. Then, Madison's story took a bizarre turn. She began talking about a mysterious man named Bob, who she claimed had been manipulating her. According to Madison, Bob had pressured her into the relationship with Willie and had threatened to harm her if she didn't comply. Collins, however, was skeptical. The story seemed too far-fetched, and Madison's behavior only raised more red flags. Lynn Tanner, the grieving wife, or jealous killer. Next on Detective Collins's list was Lynn Tanner, Willie's wife. Lynn was still in shock from discovering her husband's body, but she managed to recount the events leading up to his death. She admitted that her marriage with Willie had been strained in recent months. They had grown distant, and Lynn had suspected that Willie might be having an affair. She had no concrete evidence, but her intuition told her something wasn't right. Despite her suspicions, Lynn claimed she had no idea who Willie could have been involved with. She insisted that she had been at home preparing for the church service on the night of the murder, but Detective Collins wasn't convinced. The brutality of the crime suggested a deeply personal motive, and as Willie's wife, Lynn had both the opportunity and the emotional investment to carry out such an attack. The breakthrough. A crucial discovery. The investigation took a dramatic turn on Christmas Eve. During a thorough re-examination of the crime scene, an officer found a torn piece of paper partially hidden under a rug near the Christmas tree. The note, written in hurried handwriting, contained a chilling message. "Dirty boy, meet me at 1 p.m. MK." The initials RMK immediately caught Detective Collins's attention. Could this note have been written by Madison Kelly? The time mentioned in the note also coincided with the estimated time of Willie's death. Collins knew she was onto something significant. Meanwhile, a second search of Madison's bedroom uncovered a disturbing notebook hidden under her mattress. The pages were filled with obsessive entries about her relationship with Willie, including graphic descriptions of their encounters and plans for secret meetings. One entry, dated December 22nd, matched the time and place mentioned in the note found at the Tanner home. The arrest and trial, Madison's final lie. With the note and the diary in hand, Detective Collins knew they had enough evidence to make an arrest. On December 26th, Madison Kelly was taken into custody. Initially, she maintained her innocence, continuing to spin the wild story about Bob, but the evidence was overwhelming. Madison's trial began in early February 2020, and it captivated the town of Tifton. The courtroom was packed with locals, eager to hear the details of the affair and the brutal murder. The prosecution argued that Madison's obsession with Willie had driven her to kill him in a fit of jealousy when she realized he was pulling away from their relationship. The defense, however, painted a different picture. They argued that Madison had suffered a psychotic breakdown and was not in control of her actions when she murdered Willie. They pointed to her troubled home life and the emotional manipulation she had experienced as factors that contributed to her mental state. In the end, the jury found Madison guilty of second-degree murder. She was sentenced to 25 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 15 years. The aftermath. A town forever changed. The murder of Willie Tanner left an indelible mark on Tifton. The town, once known for its close-knit community and friendly neighbors, was shaken to its core. Tanner's Hardware, which had been a cornerstone of the community for over 2 decades, closed its doors for good. Without Willie to run the business, his family decided it was best to shut it down. Lynn Tanner, devastated by the loss of her husband and the revelations about his affair, moved away from Tifton. She sold the family home and relocated to a nearby town, hoping to leave the painful memories behind her. Madison Kelly, once a promising young woman with her whole life ahead of her, now faces a future behind bars. Despite her attempts to claim mental illness during the trial, psychiatric evaluations in prison found no evidence to support her claims. She spends her days in relative isolation, her once bright future reduced to nothing more than a distant memory. For the people of Tifton, the events of December 2019 served as a grim reminder that even in the most peaceful of towns, dark secrets can fester beneath the surface, waiting to explode in tragedy. That year's Christmas, which should have been a time of celebration and joy, was marked by sorrow and loss. Conclusion. And so, what began as a secret love affair, hidden behind the walls of a quiet home, ended in bloodshed and tragedy. The story of Willie Tanner, Madison Kelly, And Lynn Tanner is a haunting reminder of how quickly love can turn into obsession and how dangerous it can be when we bury our darkest desires beneath a facade of normalcy. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Be sure to check out our other videos for more captivating stories. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.